This strange and strangely beautiful phenomenon called Dr. Manmohan Singh. I fold my hands before the memory of a gentle soul. The first adjective that comes to my mind when I think of the former Prime Minister of India, who held that exalted office for 10 long, fruitful, and eventful years, is gentle. He was gentleness personified. I would dare to call him Dr. Gentle Singh. Dr. Gentle Singh. The first thing, perhaps, that I cannot but do is to remark that Dr. Gentle Singh, the late Dr. Manmohan Singh, is really the most unlikely success story in politics. He had nothing really that really marked him out for a promising, exalted political stint or career. And yet, he made it to the top. He was not born a politician. He was not trained a politician. He did not aim to be a politician. But a confluence of circumstances made him a politician. But even when he entered the political field, it must be said to the credit of my gentle Singh that he did not become the stereotypical politician. Thank goodness for it. He remained in politics, something like a beacon of light. Or rather, he remained in politics as though he was meant to be a reminder of what politics once was, of which the politicians of our times really have no idea. I have interacted with scores and scores of politicians of the highest caliber. Not many of them, rather hardly any of them, know that the word politics actually meant and should mean the art of living together harmoniously in a city. Today it has come to mean anything but that. But if this idea of politics was embodied in anyone at all, it was in my gentle Singh, the late Manmohan Singh. That's why I cannot but pay this tribute to him. A tribute meant for someone the like of whom we shall never see again. Not even if Rahul Gandhi becomes the Prime Minister of India, which is a very, very remote possibility. For two reasons. One, the political configuration of India is of such a nature. Secondly, Rahul, for all his enthusiasm, is not particularly keen to be Prime Minister. If he had wanted to be Prime Minister, he would have been Prime Minister way back in 2014, 2004, at least by 2009. So it doesn't seem to be particularly keen. So in my lifetime, my generation, and maybe the next generation, will not see another like Dr. Manmohan Singh. And that's also the reason why we need to celebrate his memory. Dr. Singh is unusual in the sense that he became the foremost officer of the largest functioning democracy of India without winning an election. Now, many, of course, mention this to his discredit, but I also mention this to the discredit of the political system that we have developed, wherein an honest man, a dignified person, a gentleman, a man of high caliber and competence does not stand a chance. It's money power that rules the roost. It is propaganda that wins the day. It is political maneuvering that makes all the difference. In this kind of a moral jungle that politics has become, unfortunately, a person of Dr. Singh's gentle, dignified nature, who wants to do things in a principled manner, really stands no chance. Therefore, he came via the Rajya Sabha route. The second major allegation against Dr. Singh is that he allowed himself to be remote controlled by a lady. People don't ask the question as to why, if the lady were really interested in becoming the Prime Minister, she opted not to. In fact, I discussed this matter directly with the lady herself. Particularly, I remember a very pointed discussion with her in 2009, when the verdict was decisively in her favor. The public sentiments were enthusiastically in her favor. And I asked her why she did not consider this possibility. She said that what India needs at the present time is a brilliant economist, an economist with a heart, that's what she told me, and Manmohan fits the bill better than me, therefore he must continue. She didn't think of her son, she didn't think of her daughter, she thought of India. Which brings me to the third valuable thing I want to remember in connection with Dr. Singh. He loved India. He cared for India. He cared for the destiny of India. And the main reason why a politician remains clean, if I need to say this, is love for India. It's very easy to profess patriotism. It's very easy and profitable to broadcast nationalism and jingoistic nationalism in particular. But whether or not you are a true patriot is proved by whether or not you are clean or unclean. Unfortunately, today it's possible to combine corrupt politics with patriotism. Therefore, we have bridges collapsing one after the other, 10, 11 of them, within weeks of their inauguration, all patriotic bridges or bridges built by patriotic men. We have tens and thousands of crores of Indian rupees, a substantial amount of Indian wealth going abroad. In spite of the promise to bring every rupee of the black money stashed abroad, and in contrast to that, huge sums have been connived at in fleeing from this country. If Manmohan Singh remained incorruptible, honest to the last nail, until the last moment in office, it was because he was a true patriot. If you were to ask Dr. Singh what patriotism means, he would say developing the country and making the fruits of development available to the last man. Therefore, he was never tired of speaking about development with a heart, development with compassion, development with distributive justice, something that we don't hear about these days. It's not an accident, therefore, my friends, that the 10 years that Dr. Singh was in office as the Prime Minister of India were the golden period of India. I can't think of any other time when India developed as fast and as impressively, especially against a backdrop of international financial turbulence, uncertainty, crisis, etc. I don't think any Prime Minister has done as well as Dr. Singh has done in terms of developing the country. Of course, this will be debated, this will be, shall I say, stymied, because the fashion today is that it is anti-national to say something good about someone who doesn't belong to a particular camp. But truth must be spoken, at least on certain occasions. And I dare to do so at the present time. Now, do you want to know how honest and how committed to the nation Dr. Singh was? And I'm going to share with you something very private, very personal. Dr. Singh's son-in-law was my colleague in St. Stephen's College. When I was the principal of St. Stephen's College, his son-in-law, Dr. Vijay Tanka, was head of the department of the philosophy department of St. Stephen's College. So, in a particular context, where the college was landed in some trouble, for no fault of the institutions, I asked Vijay Tanka whether he would seek the intervention of the Prime Minister's office, because that particular problem I thought could not be sorted out with anything less, because it pertained to a construction that was erected in an unauthorized, illegal manner in connection with Commonwealth Games of 2010. That's when Mr. Vijay Tanka told me this. He said, Walson Saab, how I wish I could help you, but I must tell you what the old man is like. And this is exactly what he said. He said, in 2004, and he said, I'll tell you what the old man is like, not in a kind of disrespectful manner. He adored his father-in-law, but in a conversational style. He said in 2004, when his father-in-law assumed office as the Prime Minister of India, he visited Dr. Tanka's residence on the campus of St. Stephen's College. I remember that visit. And he told him, son, relationships are all at home. If I am the Prime Minister of India, you are not my son-in-law. You are only a citizen. So don't come into my office to interfere in any manner whatsoever. Just as I don't interfere with your work, you shall also not interfere with my work. I can guarantee you that Dr. Vijay Tanka, the son-in-law of the Prime Minister of India for 10 years, did not step into the Prime Minister's office even once. If my information is correct, if what my colleague has said to me is correct. That is Dr. Manmohan Singh. Since this is not in public knowledge, I thought I would reveal it at this point in time. I would challenge you to find another like him. Not only that, he did not allow his son-in-law, he did not allow any of his relatives, including his wife, to interfere with this work. He lived, served 18 hours a day without making a hoo-ha about it. Have you ever heard anyone say that Dr. Manmohan Singh worked 18 hours a day for India during the 10 years that he was Prime Minister? Has anyone said this to you in public? Has he ever claimed that he worked hard for the country? No, never. Then how do I know? I know it from the Cabinet Secretary of India. He was an old student of the college. When he came visiting, he told me, he said, look, I have a hard time coping with this Prime Minister. He calls me at 4 a.m., he calls me at 5 a.m. He goes through every file that I submit to him. And then if any explanation is required, there is no time bar. He will call me anytime. I have to either give the explanation on the phone or rush and help him out. That is Dr. Manmohan Singh. No person who enjoys serving the country would talk or would advertise it as though it's a matter of self sacrifice serving the country. It's a matter of privilege, not punishment, to work 18 hours for the country. So, I have said something so far positive about Dr. Singh. Now I have to tell you, and I'll close on that, something that also disappointed me, which is also part of his strength. There are situations when a man's strength also becomes his weakness. Dr. Singh was so gentle. He had that spirit of camaraderie, that culture of respecting his colleagues rather than intimidating into slavery and slavish acquiescence, slavish acquiescence with whatever the boss said and whatever the boss wanted done. He granted functional autonomy to his colleagues, which also resulted in a certain dilution of prime ministerial authority, which is what I believe went wrong with UPA 2, which resulted in considerable disarray and which paved the way for the rejuvenation, revival, and resurgence of the BJP. And therefore, the BJP owes a great deal to Dr. Singh, something that the BJP is not grateful enough to accept. I remember several of the BJP leaders during the period 2004 to 2014, they all sounded forlorn. None of them was hopeful that they will ever be able to capture power at the center. And particularly after 2009, when it seemed so certain that the Congress was on its way of resurgence, many of the BJP leaders had lost hope. But it was the disarray during the UPA 2 that revived that party and caused the present phase of India's history. I wish Dr. Singh had asserted himself a bit more. He, of course, tried to explain it away by saying that he is bound by coalition dharma, and I'm quoting the words that he used. But there I don't agree with him, because ultimately it is not coalition dharma that should have mattered to him, it is Rashtra dharma, which should have enabled him to refine, purify coalition dharma, and made his colleagues from different parties, after all it was as a coalition government, different parties of disparate ideology, coming together, forming a party, and keeping the jing bang lot, keeping the menagerie together is not an easy task. But that's where the real mettle of the supreme leader is proved for what it is. And I think in that respect, Dr. Singh could have done better. Well, of course, it's easy to say these things in retrospect. The flip side of this is, had he done so, he would have been criticized, and even I would have perhaps criticized him for being so tough-handed, for being tyrannical in his instinct, for domineering, for not granting elbow room for his colleagues to do something on their own, for masking dictatorship beneath the veneer of democracy, so on and so forth. But ultimately, history will judge you in terms of the delicate balance that you maintain between democracy and dictatorship, where the potential anarchy is bridled, checked, without making inroads into the spirit of the democratic culture, particularly the respect for the liberty, life, and limb of citizens, and the firm, unwavering commitment to protecting their fundamental rights and valuing all human rights, respecting the secular democratic character of the Indian polity. Dr. Singh was a true Democrat. Dr. Singh was truly secular. Dr. Singh was a true patriot. I make no doubt of any of these things. But because he was so gentle, which was his strength, But he found himself, like in certain tragedies, he found himself in a context where his strength also became his weakness. For example, the strength of Macbeth was that he could act decisively. That becomes his tragic flaw. The strength of Hamlet was his philosophizing character. But he found himself in a context where decisive action was required, but the philosopher in him defeated or aborted decisive action, and his plight became tragic. Had Hamlet lived in Macbeth's world, he would have been a success. Had Macbeth lived in Hamlet's world, he would have been a success. That's why I say there are situations, there are times in which your strength becomes your weakness. The hallmark of Mr. Singh, my dear Mr. Gentle Singh, his gentility, his soft way of dealing with people, the soft spoken man, the like of whom we shall never see again. Had he been a little more assertive, perhaps the history of India would have been different. What else and what more need I say? So, it's time now for me to bid farewell to someone I've had the occasion to meet. And maybe I should also reveal at this time that for about 13 years I ran a ministry in Delhi called Ministry to Parliamentarians. I used to bring together members of parliament as well as cabinet ministers from time to time in order to make them reflect on the spiritual dimensions of governance, particularly focused on the idea of good news to the poor. I remember two distinct occasions on which Dr. Singh attended these meetings, and I had the occasion to speak at that time, and he was a patient listener. He never wanted to say a word. Whereas Dr. Zales, the former president of India, Zail Singh, Sardar Zail Singh, whenever he came, he wanted to speak, and he was allowed to speak. And I don't want to cite or quote at this time whatever he said, with remarkable words. And true to his character, typical of Dr. Singh, he would come, sit there, listen in rapt attention, and leave without uttering a word. His presence, my dear friends, was as gentle as the light. I've never experienced anything like this with respect to anyone else. Perhaps the one who came closest to him was Dr. Abdul Kalam, APJ Abdul Kalam. Every other politician, every other person in the corridor of power exudes some kind of a heavy air. The very air they breathe is heavy. Whereas I have a feeling that Dr. Singh exhaled light. It may be an exaggeration, but it's the exaggeration of truth. I don't think we'll ever see anyone like him ever again in politics. Just as we will not see anyone like Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam as the President of India ever again. There are reasons for this, but it's not the occasion for me to expatiate on those reasons, maybe on another occasion. I fold my hands before this most cherished memory of a gentle soul who gave himself without reservation in utter dedication to the service of India. And the words that come to my mind are the words of Shakespeare, where he says, "Here was a man, when will such another come?" Here was a man, when will such another come? Jai Hind.